My name is Alex. I'm 30. I run a modest convenience store near Highway 9. The one with the dimming E in welcome that I intend to repair but postpone because there's always a priority. Faulty payment terminal, dripping ceiling above Island 2, a loyal customer who requires a boost at 3 a.m. Folks assume convenience stores operate on autopilot. They don't. I sweep, replenish, balance, clear blockages, and greet. That's my routine on typical days. In my household, I'm the supporting role, not the star, not the failure, just the one who arrives, maintains the power, settles when the invoice unexpectedly appears on my desk. My father calls me realistic. My mother calls me reliable. What they truly imply is I'm handy. There's a distinction, and it carries a price. I was raised in a leased unit behind the lumber yard, the sort of spot where the pain shakes when semis roll by. My brother Leo is 2 years junior and the pride of the clan. He styles cuts, shares clips, and manages to secure 4 celebrations annually: real dessert, flames, focus. If Leo requires a down payment for a fresh station in his shop, we all mobilize. If I require a break after a 14-hour stretch, I'm labeled idle. That's the equilibrium. At the store, I enjoy the calm just before sunrise when the brew's hot and the breeze is crisp. I tally the register, inspect the monitors, and hear the drone of the fridges. It seems like potential. Then my device begins vibrating and the magic fades. Father, drop by this evening. Clan meal, no specifics. It's rarely a true request. It's attendance check. I attend regardless because skipping it only escalates the following meal. Meal means my parents' residence, a slim dwelling with an overly noisy screen and a surface that's perpetually tacky at the borders. Leo arrives delayed with a chuckle large enough to occupy the space. Father's already 3 sodas deep, recounting the identical tale about that single occasion he nearly acquired a chain. I carry a cake no one touches. I settle, I hear, I agree. When there's a pause, Mother directs the familiar inquiries at me. Still alone, still at the convenience store. She phrases it like a hushed alert, like she's cautioning me about my path. I lift shoulders. Yes, it covers the costs. Which ones? Father states and smirks at his own quip. We progress through dishes. We progress through minor jabs. Leo discusses a novel layering method, like he pioneered styling. Father chuckles excessively, eyeing me to ensure I realize I'm expected to chuckle as well. I'm skilled at absorbing the blow and allowing it to drift. I was instructed young, avoid escalating it. After sweet, Father reclines, palms on his belly, and gazes at me like I'm a program he's tired of. He launches the phrase, relaxed and pointed. How does it feel to have no spouse and no children at 30? How humiliating, he declares. The space chuckles, not loudly, not cruelly, just naturally. The sort of chuckle that indicates we recognize the routine, we recognize your position. I gaze at my portion of uneaten cake and sense my teeth clench. I gulp, something constricted and ancient shifts in my torso. I don't explode. I don't exit dramatically. I store it aside the way I usually do. But this occasion the compartment won't shut. I grin without warmth. Fine cake, I remark and rise to gather the dishes. That's my signal, that's my duty. But within, a fresh tone murmurs. This will shift, shortly. I never intended to manage a convenience store. It began with night duties at a round-the-clock spot near the interstate when I was 19. Merely employment to keep me active after Father's shifts were reduced, and we required aid with lease. I grasped the pattern quickly. Haulers at 4 a.m., teens purchasing caffeine shots like their remedies, the rare agitator who aims to swap a tool for funds. You maintain composure, you maintain palms in sight, you maintain records. After several seasons, the manager sought exit. I understood the figures better than he. I acquired the site with a startup credit and a verbal pact on the stock. The afternoon I received the locks, I wept in the back restroom, not from joy. Because I was frightened, the store demanded all. I repaired what possible and covered what not. I mastered fuel orders like a bettor. How much gamble you accept relies on your view of next Wednesday. When processing charges rose, my earnings edges vanished like faulty lighting. When the warm season gales arrived, I was atop with a sheet while lightning crept over the horizon. Yet I sustained it. I met wages. I settled vendors. And when Father's van required a fresh gearbox and Leo's shop station payment failed, I settled that also. Just until Monday, they claimed. Monday is an extended term in my household. Leo's the favored. I mentioned that. He never requested it, and yet he never rejected it either. At events, Mother boasts about his venture drive. When Leo appears delayed, we delay dining. When I appear prompt, I'm instructed to arrange the surface. That's what partiality resembles from the low rows. It's not streamers and beams. It's countless tiny adjustments that always veer from you. Fun discussions at our home arrive packaged in household demands. Father's phrase, we unite. The meaning, Alex settles initially. When I obtained the store, he began appearing with concepts. Alliance, he stated, sketching the term in the atmosphere like an emblem. I can assist manage the ledgers. I informed him the ledgers were okay. They weren't, but they were mine. He disliked that reply. He claimed I was unappreciative. I claimed I was occupied. We both weren't incorrect. Then there was the issue with Leo's levy obligation. He omitted filing for 2 cycles. And when the notice arrived, he gazed at me with orbs like a struck pup. "They'll seize," he stated, as if the revenue was a harsh instructor and I was the exemption. I settled the lease to halt the flow. "I'll repay you, Alexei," he stated, warm and swift. 4 months later, he shared fresh reflectors for the shop. No reference to me. My parents maintain a tally you can't view. Every lift, every sack of provisions they purchased me when I was 18 remains on it. "We accomplished much for you," Mother states when I pause to handle an invoice. She states it gently, like a cushion over the face. She's not incorrect. They performed what possible, but in our dwelling, aid is a debt with no records and steep returns. It worsened last cold season. Father injured his spine at labor. He was absent for a month. He didn't inform me until his property owner rang me straight. "You're the backup on the form," the owner stated. I didn't even realize I was a backup on anything. "They're delayed," he included, 4 weeks. I handled it because I couldn't bear the idea of my mother boxing items in the downpour. I convinced myself it was a single instance. It never is. Every occasion I request distance, I'm labeled extreme. Every occasion I decline, I'm labeled spiteful. At Leo's celebration, when I requested Father to cease labeling me gloomy before the relatives, he stated I couldn't handle humor. When I brought a container of quality spirit and nobody uncorked it, I sensed 16 anew, clutching an ideal grade sheet while all fawned over Leo's fresh polish. It appears minor recorded, minor items accumulate. At the store, the strain converted to digits. Postponed shipments because I delayed a provider too far. A penalty charge because an unexpected deduction struck the balance the same day Leo took $700 for supplies. A reversal from a person who asserted he didn't purchase $90 in fuel even though I observed him. On a Monday, my payment handler warned to increase my fee if my challenge rate didn't better. On a Wednesday, my father messaged, "Your mother's connection charge, handle it, no courtesy, no background, just handle it." I gazed at the message until the display darkened. I began tracking count because emotions seemed elusive. In 90 days, my household rang me 112 occasions. 86 were about funds, 14 were about a lift, a retrieval, a seat to rest on after a dispute. 12 were "how are you?" Only 3 awaited the reply. The ultimate trigger before all erupted was a weekend meal that morphed into a finance session without my approval. I entered to discover a real pad on the surface marked Alex's inputs, with rows and ratios like I was a subsidy. Father had inscribed in bold script, lease 40%, services 35%, household connection plan 100%. You utilize it too, he stated. Leo's venture credit 25%, just short-term, and a row at the base, backup reserve, household. I scanned it twice, then glanced up. "What is this?" I inquired. Father lifted shoulders. "We're structuring. You desire to be viewed seriously, be serious." "I manage a venture," I stated, and heard how guarded it rang. "I am serious." "Then behave like it," he stated. "You've been fortunate. Distribute the fortune." Leo observed me with his head angled high, like he was on a broadcast. "It's not major, Alexei. You earn solid funds." I chuckled. It rang like a hack. "Do I? You're always at that store," Father stated. "Don't claim you're strapped." That was the point. I wasn't strapped, I was squeezed. There's a distinction between lacking funds and not permitted to retain it. I returned that night with a roster in my pocket and a pulse behind my eyes. It occurred 3 weeks later, at a grill event that was meant to be just household. The flames were active, the relatives were present, tunes too high for the small yard. Leo's fresh partner had a view on all. He labeled my store charming. I grinned and served him a cola. I tallied the strikes and allowed them to drift. Then Father located a crowd for his preferred activity. Contrast Alex to others. "Look at your relative Sam," he stated, gesturing with his drink. "Partner, 2 offspring, lone, actual existence. Alex still tinkering merchant." "Father," I stated, a caution in my tone. He dismissed me. "I'm illustrating." "About me?" I inquired. "Or about you?" He grinned. "How does it feel to have no spouse and no children at 30? How humiliating." He presented it like a zinger he'd reserved. The entire surface chuckled because chuckling was simpler. I remained there clutching the sauce like a stage item. Something in me evened, not blaze, not frost, just lucid. I placed the container down, dried my palms on a tissue, and approached nearer so I didn't need to elevate my tone. "Do you want to do this genuinely?" I inquired. Father rotated eyes. "Here we go. You want to discuss humiliation?" I stated firm. "How does it feel that I'm the one sustaining you at 48? The chuckling halted like someone unplugged it. Father's expression shifted. First bewilderment, then warmth. "Mind your words." "I cover your lease," I stated. "Your connection, your van coverage. I covered the delay on your power last month. I covered Mother's charge the month prior. I covered Leo's levies. I covered the meal we're consuming now. I purchased the fuel. I purchased the disposable dishes. I purchased the tiny banners on the treats. Humiliating is having a son and handling him like a dispenser. Mother tensed. Leo flickered like a figure. Someone lowered the tunes. The yard shrank until all I could detect was my own pulse. Father rose, torso forward, attempting to make it about stance. You don't address me like that in my residence. It's the owner's residence. I stated, and I observed the terms strike him. And he contacts me first. Alex, Mother stated. Caution and request combined. I drew a gradual inhale. This isn't about payback. This is about conclusion, so here it is. Starting tomorrow, you'll be handling your own charges. For a moment, everybody was a sculpture, then the sound returned all at once. Are you for real? Leo snapped. What about my venture, you vowed? I didn't, I stated. You heard the term assist and converted it to eternal. That's on you. Father aimed at me like he could jab a gap. We're household. Household aids household. I concur, I stated. Household aids, not abuses. There's a boundary. You crossed it. You believe you're superior to us, he spat. I believe I'm weary, I stated. I believe I'm finished purchasing regard with lease slips. Mother attempted a fresh approach, gentler. Alex, be logical. You know your father's spine. He can't. He can seek aid, I stated. He can speak to his owner himself. He can reduce plan, trade the van he can't maintain. He can cease distributing my time like event gifts. You ungrateful little, Father began, and I raised my palm. No more labels, I stated, serene like metal. Here's what follows next. I'll handle what I've already pledged through the end of this month. After that, I'm done. No credits. No just this time. No will repay you Tuesday. If you message me about funds, I won't reply. If you appear at my store, I'll summon authorities. If you want to discuss something that isn't a charge, I'm available. If not, best wishes. Alex, Leo stated, tone tiny for the first time. Please, they'll halt my profile. I'll drop customers. You could have settled the revenue before the spotlight, I stated. Decisions. Father advanced, jaw tightening. You think you're a grown because you vend fuel? I think I'm a grown because I learned to rise, I stated. And because I'm not going to sponsor my own disdain anymore. He parted lips. I shook head once. I'm heading residence, I stated. I hope you all resolve it. But I'm not your strategy anymore. Nobody shifted to halt me. I departed clutching my locks like a charm, pulse thumping so intensely I could sense it in my gums. In the path, I rested on my van and gazed at the heavens. It was one of those nights where the vapors resemble piled saucers. I awaited remorse to overwhelm me. It didn't. What arrived instead was quiet. I didn't identify it at first. It was mine. I adhered to it. The following dawn, my device illuminated the way a game does in films. Vibe after vibe. Alert after alert. I flipped it face down on the surface and prepared brew. I took my leisure. I cut a fruit the way my grandma once did, pieces in a row. I consumed upright in my cooking area like an individual who fits in his own existence. Then I lifted the device. 27 skipped rings, 52 notes, 3 voices from Father that shifted from furious to pleading to furious anew. A lengthy note from Mother full of terms like let down and harming us. Plus a brief one at the close. Your father is shamed. Leo's were quick explosions. They halted my profile. They're adding penalties. Alexi respond. And an image of a warning like it was an infant. I didn't reply. I entered the store and performed the start myself even though I had a worker planned. I required the ceremony. Switches, unbolt, tally. The chime of the entrance when I turned the marker to open seemed like service. Before midday, Mother appeared. She didn't acquire anything. She remained before the surface with her palms joined like she was appealing at me. Alex, she stated soft, we can't manage this. You mean I can't? I stated and kept my tone level. But I can, and I'm going to. We nurtured you, she stated like a charm. We did all for you. You did what possible, I stated. And I've done what possible. It's time for everyone to do what they can for themselves. She glanced around the store like it might concur with her. You always desired to be the savior. I always desired to be handled like an individual, I stated. There's a distinction. She departed without acquiring the drink she was grasping. I observed her throw it into the rider's seat of Father's van and shut the entrance like the drink insulted her. In the later hours, Father rang from a figure I didn't know. You barred me, he stated when I answered. I rooted you, I stated. If it's a crisis, ring 911. It is a crisis, he snapped. They're ending the power. You received an end notice last month, I stated. I handled it. You claimed you'd arrange a schedule. Did you? He disconnected. 10 minutes later, he messaged an image of the warning and then another of his face, flushed and enraged, like evidence of the harm I'd inflicted. I placed the device down. I inscribed on an adhesive, all is a crisis when you decline to prepare. I attached it to the till where I could view it. The initial week was clamor. By day 2, my uncles commented. By day 3, a relative I haven't met in years dispatched me a section about respecting elders. By day 4, Father attempted a fresh method, appeared with a temple acquaintance who leads a money guidance and desired to appeal over my funds. I instructed them to depart. They didn't. I summoned authorities. The responder knew my father. That worsened and improved it. He instructed them to go. He instructed me to record. I already had. The second week was calm in another manner. The rings decreased. The notes grew briefer. Wow, Leo inscribed one evening. I didn't think you'd really follow through. I didn't reply. I browsed the notes, sometimes like images of a gale I'd endured. I noted the shift, how it moved from fury to remorse to negotiating to quiet. Quiet is the final phase. People think it's approval. Sometimes it's just fatigue. At residence, I performed minor tasks I'd delayed. I swapped the bath nozzle that sprayed unevenly. I gave away the carton of attire I retained because perhaps I'll don them. I purchased an inexpensive mat that made the sitting area feel less transient. I resumed jogging, dawn, before the area stirred, because I enjoyed the rhythm of my steps on vacant paths. It seemed like constructing something even when I wasn't at the store. On a Monday, I received a group note from Mother titled Household Crisis Session. It had a spot, an hour, and a roster. Plan, duties, anticipations, Alex. I scanned it twice. I responded with one line, I won't attend. Father replied with 3 terms, you will. I didn't attend. They conducted it without me and shared an image later like it was a picnic. I gazed at the picture, the surface, the pads, Leo's partner with a grave expression, and sensed a pure sorrow. They were sessioning about me, again, like I was an issue to fix instead of an individual to hear. I went for a ride and wound up in the vacant area behind the store where the haulers stop at night. I shut off the motor and remained. The heavens were a solid azure. I tallied the bars in the barrier until my mind calmed. The third week, results arrived. Father's van vanished from the path. Willing handover. He informed someone on open before he noticed I'd picked up. The power ceased at the residence for a day. Leo's shop declared short-term halts for upgrades, which was signal for no income. Mother rang to inform me that the household connection plan would be ended unless someone handled. I stated they should end it. She inhaled sharply like I'd suggested harm. How will we communicate? She inquired. You can ring me, I stated, when you're prepared to discuss something other than funds. She disconnected. An hour later, she dispatched an image of a candle at meal because the power's gone, but we're optimizing. There was a happy icon. I didn't know whether to chuckle or weep. In the midst of all that, something odd occurred at the store. Patrons noted I was easier. I didn't share anything, but I suppose you can detect when a tone carries less. A steady named Mr. Chen inquired if I'd finally added aid. I stated not yet. He stated he had a relative who required labor. I met the relative the next day, solid youth, sincere gaze. I added him for later shifts and for the first time in months, returned residence before dark. On Thursday, I received a single note from father. I sought aid. They stated it'll require time. They requested papers. Don't know where they are. I could sense the modesty he didn't know how to display. I entered and erased 3 responses. Finally, I inscribed, request the handler for a roster, request them to restate anything unclear, carry a pad, inscribe it, you can manage this. He didn't reply, that was fine. The goal wasn't praise. The goal was ability. The skipped rings and unread notes became a kind of emblem. I didn't erase them. I allowed them to remain like evidence of a boundary drawn in lasting ink. Some evenings I browsed to the start, to the grill, to the quips, to the chuckle that wasn't a chuckle at all. I didn't dwell, I noted. I sipped liquid, I rested. On weekend, I bypassed meal deliberately. I prepared noodles at residence and consumed it on the ground because my fresh mat made the ground feel like a seat. My device vibrated once, an image of the surface without me, and then it didn't. The quiet on the other side seemed like a space I could finally occupy. I'm not going to pretend and claim everything is resolved. It isn't. Father still believes regard should arrive with authority. Mother still speaks in loops when she desires something. Leo still shares, leader mail, sayings, and neglects to settle levies. They're themselves. I'm myself. The distinction is I finally allowed that to be accurate without funding it. What shifted in me isn't fury. It's limits. I state no without a lecture. I state yes when it's pure. If father requests guidance, I provide it. If he requests funds, I don't. If Leo wants me to endorse anything, I won't. If mother begins the we did all script, I terminate the ring. Not with harshness, with routine. This isn't about payback. I informed father that night. And it still isn't. It's about conclusion. Conclusion is dull from the exterior. It slips in a binder, a schedule alert to balance on Fridays, a roster on the cooler that says rest, liquid, wash, jog. It's preparing a wrap and consuming it gradually. It's grasping that household is not a code that opens your funds. It's acknowledging that affection without regard is just demand wearing your expression. A week ago, father messaged an image of a lease marker before a tinier spot. Might submit, he inscribed. No excitement marks, no remorse. Just a thing he was performing. I informed him the submission cost was sometimes flexible. He stated okay, that was it. It seemed larger than it appeared. The lesson is basic. Because basic is all I can sustain. You don't owe anyone your collapse. You can care for people and still decline to fund the disdain they deliver you with a grin. I'm the same individual I was before. Convenience store manager, Don Hours. Brew, that's too bold. The distinction is I'm not a supporting figure funding the act. I'm in it, I'm voicing. And when someone chuckles at a phrase that slices me, I don't gather the dishes anymore. I gather my locks, I head residence. I construct an existence that suits.